participate and partake more in the conversations, you know what I'm saying, from my own perspective of, you know what I'm saying, what I've experienced here and whatnot, you know what I'm saying. It's kind of interesting. I really resonated with. I was gonna ask you actually, without putting too much of my business out there like that. Not that I really care, but while you're finding that book, you know, I definitely, what you was talking about with that voltage. What's that by?
Her name is Joanne Neff.
Joanne Ness.
So Neff, N-E-F-F.
N-E-F-F.
So
Sure.
Soul Retrieval, Turn to Wholeness, and it's, you know, one of those books about, you know, it's a couple of it actually that's good, but that's the one, the good starter book.
Okay, bet that. Yeah, I've been diving in. I've been diving in. Not trying to, but doing my part. You know what I'm saying? Wherever I can, however I can. But I was gonna ask you something. I came in on a live yesterday, and I just must have missed it right at the end. So I don't know if it wasn't for me at that time, right? But if I'm being honest, since I'm being honest with you, right? You know, I kind of, for the last, like, I've been on this. For the last like 9 months or so, right, I kind of stopped smoking weed, you know what I'm saying? I kind of stopped smoking weed, and you know, here and there and whatnot, but like not as heavily as I really, like, you know what I'm saying? I didn't care, you know what I'm saying, whatever it was. But most recently I had a situation with, not a situation, I had a beautiful experience, right? Yeah, exactly, a beautiful experience with regards to the only thing I could correlate it with, right? Because I was sitting there, and then the day after it happened, I watched one of your videos where you talking about a 9-volt nigga that's not gonna make it, you know what I'm saying, and whatnot. So I believe that's what was going on there. And but then the next day I smoked some weed, and I'm talking about, like, it should have me feeling like a lightweight, because I'm like, I smoked like barely, you know what I'm saying, like barely. And it took me to some shit, you know what I'm saying? And one of the things about that was I had to get over the fear, because for a second it was like I'm like, damn, bro, like I can't do that again. So then the next day I was like, fuck it, I'm not about to be scared of it, you know what I'm saying? So I was like, it's either a tool, like you said, for your liberation, or it's in opposition to that, you know? So I'm like, I gotta find out what it is. And so I was just wondering if you had any, before I hop off, I'm not trying to, you know what I'm saying, take nobody's time, we're not too much, but before I hop out on that, if you had any, and I could definitely reach out to you personally and whatnot and give you more of the full, he can't put it in words. Most definitely I can't. Being real with you, I most definitely can't. Somebody in the comments, I definitely can't put it into words. It was like Rod say, like some people dream in feelings, you know what I'm saying? Like I can't put that one into words. So yeah.
Study the endocannabinoid system.
Okay.
ENDO cannabinoid. C-A-N-I-B, I think it's I-N-A-L noid. N-O-I-D.
I got you.
Yeah.
All right, bet that.
Yeah. So that's when you smoke marijuana, this is what you activate.
Okay.
The endocannabinoid system is it's the overlay of your spirit body. So when you agitate it with the THC, you make it get stronger. And when you get the munchies, you eat the sugar and the greasy food, you're trying to get the polyunsaturated fat in the brain to facilitate the rapid firing. And you're trying to get the sugar in the brain because most of your glucose is used in the brain. But when you get a lot of glucose in what you call sugar form, it creates an alcohol burn, which is a dirty burn. And the soot is the set. And the set is the backdrop of conscious melanin created by communicating through the carbon in the soot you just generated and the carbon that's in your brain to increase your neuromelanin production and stimulate your pineal gland and sync the two hemispheres of the brain. So this is why all of the chiefs be chiefing.
I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you.
So,
Shit.
so everything that you do, the gratitude to the ancestors for making you do it so you can use it for your liberation, you begin to control it better and you begin to use it for a purpose better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate you, Rod. I appreciate your time. I appreciate everything you done did before I even started, you know what I'm saying, in 2018. From now, watching that shit, it kind of remind me already of like, what, you know, people be talking about nowadays as time travel. I'm like, bro, he talking to me about this shit, and I'm getting it right here, right now, and it's still just as accurate, as valid, and that gives me more emphasis to just have a passion for going back and learn and remembering who the fuck I am and what the fuck I am. So I appreciate you for real.
For sure, for sure.
All right, be easy.
Gratitude.
Absolutely, unity.
Get through. What's going on, man? No?
OG. All I was gonna say was these fools don't know you insulting them or you just making sure their mom's straight. That's some mercy shit. They don't know there's an army waiting. Right now I'm in the UK. I'm planning to come over in 2022, go into the hoods, do whatever I need to do, help the family. There's an army here. There's an army waiting. I hope. Well, what I was gonna say is that, like, especially these fools that are trying to send you some shit. Especially these fools that, like, if you give the word, that'd be gone in a second.
Yeah,
That'd be gone in a second.
Look, I would have did that myself. I ain't gonna send somebody to do something for me when I can have the satisfaction of doing it myself.
Yeah.
No, because I'd be disappointed if I sent somebody else to do it, and then I'm thinking about, man, I could have did that myself.
Yeah.
I could enjoy.
No,
I could have enjoyed watching them squeal like a pig in person. So
I meditated. I meditated the other day, and I got exactly that. If they fuck with you, and especially to me, if they fuck with you, if you give them mercy, one of us will be sent.
Yeah.
I got that. But nah, I hear you, and I just want to say thank you for all you do. Thank you for what you do. What you do over there, it helps us on the continent as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we take this over here, we take it. When this get took over here, that's took over too.
I hope people understand that. I hope people understand that. Free Larry Hoover.
If they knew that that's ISIS land, all of what the
before I met Elijah or Malcolm or God getting them in the sacred halls, they put Master Fire Muhammad before me. He was old and wrinkled up, and I was fucked up. He wasn't supposed to be old and wrinkled up according to how he need to live. But then he told me, because that was the first thing I want to know. If you God, right? And I'm talking to one they call Master Fire Muhammad, the Sufi mystic, the one that they're trying to figure out what happened to him. And I know what happened to him, and I know where he at. I know where the body was, and all that. But I'm not going to get into that because that's not necessary for this video. Master Fire Muhammad told me the reason why he was all wrinkled and aged. He said because he was done with this physical form. He said, I began to eat 3 meals a day. I said, well, why would you do that if you're supposed to eat 1 meal a day and you're supposed to do everything according to righteousness? He said, look, I ate 3 meals a day because it accelerates my decay and accelerates my breakdown. It didn't make no sense to me. I didn't realize until last year after my graduation it was a riddle. And this is what the riddle was. He was telling me that at this day and time, the old ways would be hampered by greed. That's what he was telling me. When he showed himself as being aged, he's telling me this is the old ways. This is the old stuff, the old energy. And it's going to be hampered from the rebirth of the new energy by the 3 meals a day represented the greed. Because according to how to eat to live, if you're eating 3 meals a day, you're greedy. It's just that simple. You're greedy. 7 deadly sins. Jealousy, envy, lust, greed, number 4. So greedy, what will make a person greedy? Deprivation. Deprivation is the fertilizer for greed. Who's been deprived? The American so-called Negro. Since he's been here, he's been deprived. Been deprived of everything that the Christ was deprived of in the crucifixion. He's been deprived of knowledge itself. Thorns on his head. Deprived of the right to build his own stuff with his hands nailed to the cross. Deprived of the right to walk the land freely with his feet nailed to the cross. And his blood has been contaminated against his will, thus seen by the spirit of destiny as it mixes the blood in the urine. It's in your face. But I have to show you that it's in your face so you won't believe me. It's right there. The whole story is right there. So the judgment that Anu, who was authorized to issue a judgment because his rank was higher, issued the judgment on Nebuchadnezzar as the story is told. That's Hiram. That's the story of Hiram. Part of it. Part of it is in Ezekiel. Some of it is in the other lesser prophets. It's all there though. The whole, it's broke up. They use homonyms and synonyms. All of this stuff is relevant. They use star charts to confuse you because they know the stars not going to change. And that's one of the few things that they put in the books, no matter which one it is, that you can always check for frame of reference. They're not allowed to change anything stellar. If you see them write about a star, study that intently, because that's one of the few things that, according to the rules of this universe, they cannot change that on Earth where it cannot be referenced with the stars. Any book that they call a religious book, if it got stellar references, that's your starting point. Match the stars up first. Then match the stories up that fall under the stars. And then it'll clear itself up. You won't need nobody to do it for you. You won't need nobody. So this is why they keep telling you that there's astrotheology in the Bible, in the Quran, the Judaic religions. All they telling you is that everything man can change on Earth, he can't change the stars in the sky. So your elders, your ancestors, was wise enough to know this. So everything they did, they tied it directly to the stars so that you can read it in real time as it unfolds on Earth. And that's why I pointed out when I was telling everyone Hiram was raised. The stars point to the Orion belt. Who is Orion? The great and mighty hunter. Who was the great and mighty hunter? Nimrod. Who was Nimrod? The one they feared. Who was the one they feared? The only one they couldn't defeat, Sun Wukong. Well, what happened to Sun Wukong? Sun Wukong met the Buddha. The Buddha sent him to tame his Sakoma, his monkey man. He named him Hanuman as he became realized because he said, the Monkey King told the Buddha that no man may become God. They can all attain the level of a Hanuman. Look it up. It's no secret. It's all there. And so, if the Orion is the great hunter Nimrod, and if Nimrod is the only undefeated Sun Wukong, and the Sun Wukong went to the Buddha, the great wise one, and the great wise one told him he had to attain the wisdom of the ages before he could rule. And so he went on a journey to the west. Where would he go? Where would he go? If he's going on a journey to the west, where would he go? So at that time, the west was Africa. So he went to the Congo. So this is why they call him the king of the Congo. And they use the symbol of the gorilla, King Kong, because the gorilla is the only major mammal on the continent of Africa you will not find in the hieroglyphics. Now you got to ask yourself why. If they knew about chimpanzees and orangutans in Asia, well, not orangutans because they wrote about them over in India, but if they knew about chimpanzees in Africa, if they knew about baboons in Africa, and they knew about the elephant in Africa, and the lion, and the wildebeest, and they knew about stuff in the water that y'all ain't even seen yet in Africa, how the hell they didn't know about the gorilla? Well, spoiler. The only reason the gorilla is not in the hieroglyphics is the last totem clan to rise on Earth before the ascent would be the gorilla clan. So they were not allowed to use that symbol because the reign of Hanuman had not come. The reign of the Monkey King, crowned in the Congo, had not come. So they can't use his symbols prematurely. If they try to use his symbols, they would violate the rules and lose power instantly and ruin everybody's ascent, even though it's been evil, wicked, and painful. The whole purpose of giving her only begotten son is that no human be thrown away like trash and nobody be left behind who does not choose to be left behind. The only way you can choose to be left behind in the final ascension of this era is by choosing to do things that bring down your natural higher vibratory rate. You have to draw yourself down to becoming lesser than what you are. The more you try to become your best self, the more you can ascend and the more worthy you are to call yourself righteous. And this is why I say it's easier for a rich man to enter
First dynasty Egypt.
Right. So, because this is the standard of history. Anything before that is called antediluvian history.
Antediluvian. Yeah.
Which means before the flood.
Right.
Which means when the ice finally melted from the artificially induced nuclear winter, the melting of the ice caused mud to be everywhere. It wasn't a literal flood; it was frozen.
So it wasn't a literal flood like how we think it was.
No, everything was frozen, and then when the nuclear winter, it can't break until it cleaned the radiation up enough. This is what switches your genetics, by the way. Radiation is what causes the unnatural change in DNA. And this is what caused us to go from magnesium-based to iron-based. Because we was originally breathing ozone, the double O oxygen molecule.
Mm-hmm.
Now we breathe in the single oxygen molecule. So it changes the rate of combustion in the biology. When we using magnesium, right, we giving off radiant shades of blue and green. We look like that movie, The Avatar, except we not tall with tails. We standing around with blue skin and afros, blue skin and straighty hair. But we all had shades of blue to green. This is why you see that Osiris is olive green. You see Krishna is baby blue. Sometimes he navy blue. Kali Ma, she's blue, almost black. So the different shades, because it's mixing with the melanin.
Mm-hmm.
The plants still use the dominant magnesium. That's why they have chlorophyll instead of blood.
Mm.
Right? In the plant blood, chlorophyll can clean your human blood. Right? So this is where we get to taking out the sea moss and the sour sop and all that. That's because the nutrition in the plant's chlorophyll have all of the frequencies to correct the anomalies in the genetics of the blood-based human.
Mm-hmm.
Because it remembers, it can communicate with the DNA going back to before we switched from magnesium to iron, going from shades of blue to shades of wheat.
So, Rod, so if we, we went from magnesium to iron, the air was different. You said we went from breathing magnesium to breathing oxygen, you saying, right?
No, that's the base metal of the body.
Okay.
It's the metal that causes us to turn brown with our melanin now instead of green.
Okay, is the
That's
iron.
the iron.
The iron.
The magnesium is when we used to be green. Right. Today, when the baby's born with the green patch on them or the heavy magnesium concentration, because they go through it in the womb. All stages of human evolution is gone through in the womb for 9 months before the baby is born.
Right.
And it's a period of time where the baby in the womb is either pale gray or some shade of green. They call it the Mongolian spots. But if you remember, they going from magnesium based to copper based because mama's DNA said in order to survive in this oxygen ratio to carbon, you have to be able to process faster than the magnesium. So the iron is going to replace it. Then the baby switches over in his DNA structure in order to facilitate iron as opposed to magnesium. So now the skin begins to go from them shades of green to shades of brown as the baby assimilates the iron and it puts the magnesium as the support metal. Like you can't process none of the metals in the body without the magnesium.
Mm. So Rod, if we're going back to the golden age, are we also going to go back to how we look during the golden age and go from brown back to being green because that was our original color?
Not necessarily. It depends on what Mother Earth do with the atmosphere.
Ah.
Right. If she turn the temperature up, we might go to shades of orange and red.
Mm.
Which would mean that she's replacing it with probably another trace metal that tarnishes red, like it might be silver or something.
Right.
It has a red tint to the. So we come from shades of orange and red. This is why skin-based racism is so weird to old souls.
Mm.
Old souls looking at it like that's the dumbest thing I ever seen in my life. But the ones who was the new souls, the ones who had the Iceman inheritance that suffered from the psychopathic racial personality, they the ones who had to go through the catharsis of being a piece of trash to other people so that they can internalize the suffering so that they can learn to have compassion. So you're looking at conditions of the newest addition to the human family burning off their bad karma, and we build up pre-karma as a side effect.
Wow. Damn, Ron.
And when the last become first, that's when we all rich.
Right, right, right. Let's go to Antarctica, Rod. We always hear about Antarctica when we, when we go deep in ancient times. A lot of us marvel at the pyramids in Egypt. What pyramids are at the bottom in the water in Antarctica? What civilization?
They got them on land and in the water. That was one of the biggest metropolises during the age of the Atlantic. We didn't call it Atlantis. We called it the Atlantic.
Why?
That was the name of it. And then you had cities like Undal and Untal, right? So the city that's became known as the hidden lands, the Amenti. Amenti means the hidden land, the unknown lands. The unknown lands is talking about that thin place between spiritual and physical, where people keep seeing this infinite plane. Because they're looking at the full spectrum of the timeline from outside the timeline, so they think it's an infinite plane, but we really in the torsion field.
Right.
The bottom or the top of the torsion field is the stem of the apple that we would call Antarctica. But it's a hole down there that takes you into the inner Earth. There's one in the North Pole too. That's how you know we live in the torsion field. But when we go into our awakening, we see the infinite plane, and we know what we've seen with our spiritual eye is more dependable than the physical eye. So the ones of us that believe it's flat, they convinced to that because they seen the probability spectrum and timeline, and they can see it as an infinite plane in their spiritual senses. So their spiritual senses is more important than their physical senses is to them. They would rather be spiritually in tune than to be educated by the world around them.
Somebody said Superman spaceship crashed in Antarctica.
It depends on which one of the parts of it you're watching, because some of them have it in the North Pole. Right? But it's still in the icy climate. It's a crystal castle. If you pay attention to it, it's a crystal castle. Right? It's in the cold climate. That's the castle of the princess of the North, the Notre Dame. The Dame of the North. Who is the Dame of the North? She's the princess where